Well, this is a presentation on the state of reproductive rights here in Georgia. My name is Nneka Ewulonu. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I am a staff attorney here at the ACLU of Georgia. So first, an overview on maternal fetal health. So nearly half of all of Georgia's counties, and we have a great number of them, but nearly half of them lack a single OBGYN in the county. Georgia's rate for pregnancy-related deaths is among the 10 highest in the nation at 28.8 maternal deaths per 100,000 live births. Black women in Georgia are 2.3 times as likely to die from pregnancy as white women in the state are. And Georgia has one of the highest rates of infant mortality in the nation. According to the Georgia Department of Public Health, between 2015 and 2017, 87% of pregnancy-related deaths were preventable. Hi, I'm Nneka Ewulonu. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a staff attorney at the ACLU of Georgia. Right at the beginning, so you didn't miss too much. This is going to be a little overview on the status of abortion and repro here in Georgia. So that was some facts about maternal fetal health, about the lack of OBGYN services, the high rates of pregnancy-related deaths, and the high rate of infant mortality here in the state of Georgia. Yeah, definitely like across the South and even like into the Midwest, we're seeing a trend of these kind of reproductive health care deserts and lack of abortion access across those regions. So HB 481, also known as the 6-week ban, it was introduced, passed, and signed all in the 2019 legislative session, and it passed the legislature by a margin of just one vote, which really underscores the importance of democratic access and participating in elections. That's just one race or seat that had it gone differently, we might not have a 6-week abortion ban today. The 6-week abortion ban requires that a physician first determine if there's the presence of a detectable human heartbeat in a pregnancy, and that no abortion is authorized to be performed if a fetus or embryo has been determined to have a detectable human heartbeat. That is direct language from the bill, but when we talk about the 6-week abortion ban, we frame it as a 6-week abortion ban because at 6 weeks, there's nothing that we would readily think of as a heart. It's not medically and scientifically accurate to call it a heart. It is fetal cardiac activity at that stage, and so it is much more accurate and less stigmatizing to call it a 6-week abortion ban. There are some exceptions to the ban. So first, in the case of medical emergencies, but the bill specifically prohibits a physician from considering mental or emotional conditions or the threat of suicide, self-harm, or things like that by the pregnant person. And so it distinguishes between physical emergencies and mental health emergencies. There is another exception for rape or incest, but only when there has been an official police report filed. Most victims don't report the offenses they've experienced to the police, so that is a big deterrent for a lot of victims. There's also an exception for when the physician determines that the pregnancy is medically futile, defined as when the fetus has an anomaly that is incompatible with sustaining life after birth. But that language itself is incredibly vague. It doesn't really give good contours or understanding to healthcare workers, physicians about what abortions are permitted and which ones are not. And so a somber note on the impact of the bans. In recent news, there's been the story of 2 Georgia women, both black women, Amber Nicole Thurman and Candy Miller, both of whom died as a result of HB 481 and the lack of abortion access here in Georgia. And their deaths, which have been ruled, did not have to happen, are incidental to the ban. Their deaths really underscore why we're in this fight and why abortion access is such an important right and thing to fight for, both in the state of Georgia and across the country right now. But it really is important to remember the human cost that these abortion restrictions are having. So the ACLU of Georgia obviously wasn't going to just sit by and watch our state become a vacuum for abortion care. So when the abortion ban took effect back in 2022, ACLU National, the ACLU of Georgia, the Center for Reproductive Rights, Planned Parenthood, and two law firms, Kaplan Cobb and Bondurant, Mixon, and Elmore, filed a lawsuit in state court called Sister Song versus State. And that state court challenge asserts two different things. The first is that HB 481 was void ab initio, which we'll talk about what that means in the next couple slides. And also that HB 481 violates the state constitution's protections for privacy, liberty, and equal protection. So, void ab initio is a feature, a quirk of the Georgia Constitution that allows for laws to be declared void if they violate an established constitutional precedent at the time of the law's passage. And so if we all think back to 2019 and what was the law of the land in 2019, it was Roe and Casey. So our argument was that because HB 481 violated Roe and Casey at the time of HB 481's passage, the law should be declared void. We won at the trial level to the point where the judge didn't even reach the privacy and liberty arguments. He said, you won in a void ab initio, you've won, now go forth and be merry. And so the state appealed it to the Georgia Supreme Court. The Georgia Supreme Court allowed the ban to take effect pending the appeal. And eventually, after oral arguments, the Georgia Supreme Court found that HB 481 was not void ab initio, which kicked it back down to the trial court for further opinions. And this all happened over the course of 2022 into 2023, and we got the order from the Georgia Supreme Court in about November of 2023. Next, we have privacy, liberty, and equal protection. So the Georgia's Constitution has uniquely strong protections for the fundamental right to privacy, including protecting an individual's personal medical decision whether to continue a pregnancy. And so even before there was a federal or a national right to privacy, Georgia was really a pioneer in this field and found in our own state courts and based on our own state constitution that we had a right to privacy in this state before that right to privacy was really a conception nationally or federally. And so because of that case, I think it's called Pavasich from about 1907, there's a really strong and long history of privacy rights being protected in Georgia by the state constitution. So in our case, in Sister Song versus State, the trial court found that liberty in Georgia includes in its meaning, in its protections, and in its bundle of rights, the power of a woman to control her own body, to decide what happens to it and in it, and to reject state interference with her health care choices. And so, in layman's term, the trial court found for plaintiff's Sister Song that the abortion ban, the 6-week abortion ban, violated the state constitution's protections for privacy, liberty, and equal protection. Now, the right to privacy, liberty, and equal protection are not unlimited. So after viability, the state may interfere with a person's decision to terminate a pregnancy. Viability is about 20 to 22 weeks, and so that's still quite the large increase from going from 6 weeks to 22 weeks of abortion access. And so we prevailed on the privacy, liberty, and equal protection claims in the trial court level. And so what happens next? So we got the trial court order on September 30th, just a couple of weeks ago. And so now it's going to have to go through the entire appeal process, just like the void ab initio argument did. So the state has already appealed the order to the Georgia Supreme Court. The Georgia Supreme Court has allowed the ban to remain in effect during the appellate process. So unfortunately, HB 41 is in effect right now. But like with the other injunction we got with the void ab initio, there was still about a week or so of expanded abortion access in which we were able to help our clients and help patients and help Georgians get the care that they needed. There will soon be oral arguments before the Georgia Supreme Court, likely next spring. and then we will expect and hope to get a decision from the Georgia Supreme Court shortly thereafter. And the ACLU of Georgia, our co-counsel, and all of our thought partners just remain continued in this fight for reproductive rights in Georgia and to advocate for abortion access in Georgia. And that's where we are in abortion. That is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm all yours for the next couple minutes. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And yeah, I hope that was informative.
Well, it wasn't encouraging.
I wish it could be more encouraging.
Right. I don't know how you rebuild a medical community after letting it get so many things. So, even if we get the right facts, and we will need the health care.
Yeah. And there's been interesting reporting and data about the decline in OBGYN residency applications here in Georgia because people don't want, if you want to be an abortion provider, if you want to be an OBGYN that gives that kind of care, you're not going to learn about it here in Georgia. And that's having a tangible impact on our enrollment numbers for our healthcare institutions, for our medical schools. And so the abortion ban obviously impacts patients first and foremost, but it's also having a real impact on healthcare providers and their education and practice. Yeah.
You know, I'm glad you're on the case, as it were.
Thank you, yeah. It's been, I used to want to be an OBGYN back in undergrad. I took the MCAT and everything. I was really going to go to med school.
Yeah.
But now I do this, and it feels very full circle to still be working on the abortion fight. Not that I enjoy having to still work on it, but I wish it could just be all over and I didn't have to do this job anymore. But when there's a fight, I'm just happy to be in it.
You know, 50 years ago, the Baptist Convention supported.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ireland just 20 years ago endorsed it because the impact of an unwanted child is devastating. For the child.
Yeah, there's been a lot of interesting religious-based advocacy around the abortion rights issue. There's been lawsuits by Jewish faiths and other faiths about the fact that, or the argument is that by creating a 6-week abortion ban or a conception abortion ban, that is a pretty Christian worldview that life begins at conception, at 6 weeks, what have you. And there's plenty of faiths that can disagree on that. Plenty of Christian faiths that can disagree with that.
Exactly. And Jewish tradition begins with the breath.
Yeah. So.
Weeks after sometimes.
Yeah.
It was a book, I guess when I was a girl, there was a book called Church Women on Abortion. I didn't need somebody to put up guardrails.
Yeah.
It's like, if he wants it to happen, it'll happen, you know, and I just, so a lot of the people who are fighting against abortion are people who suffered through the process or something, but that they feel so strongly should not dictate that someone else does.
Right.
It does not affect society, so it's not part of it.
Right.
You can't even call it.
Thank you. That book sounds really interesting, though. What was it called?
Church Women on Abortion. I think it was Abington Press that put it out, and Evangelical Press.
Yeah, wow.
Because at that time, you know, people were dying.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that abortion used to be relatively not political, not religious. Like, I'm sure there were people for and against it, but it wasn't as, like, entrenched in, like, the culture war of, like, I'm a conservative who hates abortion, or I'm a liberal who, like, people just had opinions, and it was much more civil, it seems like.
Women have made hard decisions about their pregnancies. And you preserve the children that you know and love by not having another child.
Right.
not a decision that somebody else can make.
Yeah.
A long time to figure out some way to get ahead. I think the morals, the people who are thinking about an ethical society and really avoiding the parts of the Bible. On your business to prevent your brother from doing something.
Or also, like, kind of like you said, just living actual biblical values of, like, if you want to be pro-life, expand Medicaid. If you want to be pro-life, let's make Georgia one of the best educational places in the country. Like, there's tangible ways to be achieving those goals without infringing on my rights as a person.
Anyway, I appreciate your.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Thanks for listening to me talk.
An election related.
Yeah.
But I just had to see what was going on up here. But I didn't quite know what I was signing up for. I just got, I knew that it was about.
Well, you're going to learn a lot.
Well, I've done some legal jargon, and so just not sure whether I'm brave enough to do it at a poll.
Yeah. You are. I believe in you.
You think?
Yeah. It's, from what I've heard, it's very low pressure. You just kind of sit back, watch what happens, you take some notes. If anything really serious were to happen, you would call someone and they would come handle it, you know?
It's really, I'm not afraid of any of it except for that I might take somebody's head off if they say something really, really stupid.
Yeah.
Because it's like, can I bite my tongue?
Right. Can you be nonpartisan and, you know, do the whole
Because
thing?
it's hard in the work, and that's the part that I find really, that I enjoy,